James from Mooresville.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Claims are approved. If you remember correctly, we all must sign it. So back down the road goes. Chelsea? Give me a second.
Chelsea, is that yours? Yes. Well, they belong to somebody. The handwriting was too neat for me.
It's not mine.
Same.
Is yours? Yeah. Next item on the agenda, as I mentioned, was for the good of the order. But before we get to what I mentioned earlier, does anyone, any of the commissioners have anything that they would like to add for the good of the order? Oh, thanks, Chelsea. I told you that this evening that you would get a lot of paper, and I passed out earlier, or Chelsea passed out earlier, 2 documents that I had printed for your review, consideration, and for your files. And Chelsea has these in her office should anyone be desirous of having 30 or 60 pages worth of documentation. The first of these is a glossary of economic development terms that the Indiana Economic Development Association, in concert with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, put together for local governments, economic developers, and it goes through A through, I think it went through A through Z, and actually A through town, on economic development terms. I wanted you to have that just for your future reference, because I thought it was a good document for folks to have. The other item was a PowerPoint presentation put on by Umball at the most recent IEDA quarterly conference on the impacts of TIF districts on local government budgets and revenue. And it has 3 case studies, and it was a very good presentation by Umball, and I thought I would share that with you also. The other items I passed out for you are for the next item for discussion. At the beginning of the meeting, I indicated that Chairman's prerogative was to take public comment tonight on an issue that a number of you are here to address. This is a departure from our normal proceedings. This is a regular monthly scheduled meeting of the Redevelopment Commission. It is not a public hearing, it is a regular monthly meeting. Normally we do not take public comment or public discussion at our meetings, but Chairman's prerogative, I'm going to open up the microphone here in a minute for those who are here this evening and would like to address the Commission. As I mentioned earlier, this is not a question and answer period of time. It is an opportunity for you to express an opinion. But I did want, before we do that, I did want to go over a number of items, and then we'll invite the commissioners to add anything to my comments that they would like to emphasize, or that I forgot, or correct any mistakes that I may have made in the comments that are about to make. As I understand it, a number of people are here this evening to talk about the relocation of parking on Main Street from the current location at Indiana and Main Street to 40 West Main Street. I've only had one person call me and talk to me about this issue, but I have heard through the grapevine that there are a number of people who are interested in this issue. What I'd like to do, because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and apparently some of it is on social media. For all of its good, social media does allow a lot of misinformation to be distributed without comment. So the first thing I like to do is, we do appreciate you coming here. This is probably the largest crowd that we've had at a redevelopment commission meeting since I've been on the commission for the last 4 or 5 years. We appreciate that involvement and that interest. The rules tonight, as I mentioned earlier, is we're going to open the microphone up, ask you for your comments. We do ask that you identify yourself and also give your address. We do not have a sign-in sheet. Like I mentioned, this is not a public hearing, so we ask just that you state your name clearly and give your address so that we know who is speaking. As far as background on the bicentennial Paul Hadley Park that is in the Gateway Plan, this is not something that just suddenly arose from the minds of the Redevelopment Commission or its members. This process dates back to about 2011. Not exactly sure on the date, I didn't go back and research it. But the Redevelopment Commission held a brainstorming session to discuss those projects which made sense for the Redevelopment Commission to be involved in the future in order to improve Mooresville as a community and the things that we could impact to improve the lives of our citizens. Out of that brainstorming session, we updated our economic development, redevelopment plans in 2012. In those plans, it contained the Gateway project. The Gateway project was not fully developed because all it discussed was improving the entrances and the appearance of the community for people who live here and also people who travel through the community to make Mooresville more distinctive and more desirable to live in. As one of the other top priorities at the time was to ensure that Ivy Tech stayed in the community. Well, we accomplished that task by investing in Southbridge Crossing and renovating a part of that building for Ivy Tech to be housed in, and I think they were doing quite well in that facility. The second priority of the commission at the time was to undertake the Gateway Plan. So as part of the 2012 plan, we undertook the search for a consultant to assist the commission with this Gateway Plan, Gateway Corridor Plan, through a process that took several weeks, if not months. We chose Runsdell Hunsberger and Associates REA, as it's easier to say. During that process, they put together some design work and some concepts for the Redevelopment Commission to consider. Originally discussed, as far as gateway and corridor improvements, were gateways to be on State Road 67, and then the corridors leading into the downtown area and improve visually and aesthetically those corridors and those gateways. When the consultants came into the community, toured the community, and met with some folks, they came back with a proposal that kind of re-identified those gateways. And they came into the community and came back to the commission and said, you know, we looked at your community and we think you need to change one of your gateways. And they proposed a gateway at the intersection of Main Street and Indiana Street, and specifically identified the Paul Hadley Park as a way to create a downtown gateway for the community. They felt that because of the amount of traffic that intersection gets, the importance of that part of the community to the entire community, not only to the downtown merchants, that was an opportunity to improve the aesthetics and create an opportunity to draw more people to the downtown area to assist in the tourism and the vitality of the downtown businesses. So they came up with the concept of the Gateway Park. And I have to say that the commission was pretty surprised by that proposal. But also, we were very pleased by it because we thought it added a lot to the community and it added a lot to the downtown and created a space for everyone in the community to enjoy, as well as an opportunity create a venue for other activities to take place in the downtown area. So as part of the process, in looking at the proposed gateway plan, at that point in time, it was just a proposal, concept developed by the consultant, reviewed by the commission. In August 28th of 2013, after a number of meetings with the commission, the consultants held a public session at the Mooresville Public Library, and also held a number of stakeholder meetings in the community with various groups that had a vested interest in the gateway plan. They met during the day with those stakeholder groups, and that evening held a session at the Mooresville Public Library. Over 75 people attended that meeting at the library. Through that meeting, and the comments that were made at that meeting, and the discussion at that meeting, consultants went back, made some tweaks to their concept, came back, and October 23rd, 2013, held another public input session. And these were sessions held for the public to gather and to give input on the project that included the gateway corridors, included the corridors as well as the gateways, including the bicentennial Paul Hadley Park. On February 17, 2014, the consultants provided the final document for the Redevelopment Commission to consider. In the interim times, the Redevelopment Commission discussed this gateway corridor plan almost at every meeting that we had. Following the February 17th meeting, on March 17th, the final master plan of the gateway corridor plan was published. On April 1st, the gateway plan was presented to the Mooresville Town Council. The gateway plan also was presented to the Mooresville Planning Commission for their review and discussion. So what I wanted to do with that background is to give you an idea that we did gather significant public input on the entire gateway corridor project. The good thing about, or the nice thing about this project is that the components are interchangeable. The Paul Hadley part was supposed to be part of phase 1, and that would be along with the gateway signs and the porch. But because we were not ready to proceed with that, we pushed that portion of the project back for consideration. And again, through this whole time, having additional discussions on Paul Hadley Park and the issues related to the Paul Hadley Park. Regarding the park itself, the first thing that I want to mention is that there is a misconception among many that the parking lot that currently exists is a public parking lot. It is not. It is private property, and it is being utilized, it has been allowed to be utilized by people utilizing the downtown area through the generosity of the owner of the property. It is no way, it's not owned by the public, it is owned by a private entity. One of the things that in our discussions with the owner of the property before moving forward with the concept of the Paul Hadley Park is, and I want to commend Citizens Bank, because they were very concerned about the impact of relocating this parking lot to 40 West Main Street. And through our discussions, the initial design of the area had really the same number of parking spaces in front of the bank that currently exists. And Citizens Bank leadership asked if we could go back and look at that and see if we could redesign it to add more parking spaces to that location. And this was before a survey of the property was done. So this is still a conceptual design at this point in time because the survey on the property was just completed. But through those discussions with the property owner, we were able to add a number of new spaces in front of the bank. In addition to that, those discussions, again, because of the interest in making sure that there was adequate parking in the downtown area, the bank asked the Redevelopment Commission, as part of our agreement with them, to improve 40 West Main, pave it and landscape it. And for that, they would allow continued public parking at that location. We have estimated that, our consultants have estimated that parking lot, when paved and completed, should provide 30 to 32 parking spaces. Now that could fluctuate depending on what type of landscaping we choose. That's just an estimate at this point in time. That is by far more parking than currently exists in the existing lot at Main Street and Indiana Street. Parking was always a consideration, but the overall impact on the community for future generations was also part of the discussion. And it was the decision by the Redevelopment Commission that we should move forward with the development of the bicentennial Paul Hadley Park because of its many benefits to not only to the current generation, but also future generations of Mooresvillians. We believe it will bring additional folks to the downtown area. We think it's also important for the public to know that we don't live in a vacuum. That while we might like to keep things as they are, they can't stay that way. Communities all around the state and all around the country are improving themselves. They're making themselves more beautiful. They're improving their image. They're investing in themselves. They're creating a place where people want to live, work, and play. This is the concept behind this downtown park. Communities around us are investing in their communities. They're investing in projects like this. And from our perspective, it is not only a community development project, but it is an economic development project. When we're dealing with economic development projects, when somebody comes in and looks at the community, they want to know that it's a place where they can recruit people, they can hire people, and people will want to live there. And that's one of the reasons that not only the downtown park, but improving State Road 67 and the corridors into town are all part of this project. They are not independent of one another, but build on each other. The other thing that, and I mentioned the number of parking spaces that are affected by this project, I want to make it clear that it is not an elimination of parking spaces. It is a reallocation or relocation of parking spaces. I had the opportunity, and two of the things that I passed out or had asked Chelsea to pass out was the most current conceptual design of the park. And you can see the additional parking areas in front of the bank. But one of the other things that she passed out was a aerial photograph of the downtown area. And in that aerial photograph, you will see the current parking lot at the corner of Main and Indiana Street. But you also see the public parking places on here, public parking lots on Harrison Street, both at just east of the current town hall. You'll see a public parking lot at the old fire station on Indiana Street. You will see a public parking lot on Main Street, about 41 West Main Street, and the proposed improved lot at 40 West Main Street. I won't bore you with all of the number of steps at each of these parking lots, but I will tell you that parking lots to Indiana Street. I also walked from the angled parking from Citizens Bank to the intersection of Main and Indiana Street. I measured on Google Earth the distances from those parking lots to those intersections. I also went to Walmart, Meijer, and Kroger on a Friday afternoon to measure or count the number of steps I had to take in order to get to the front door of those establishments from where I had to park on a Friday afternoon. The only one that I will mention, and I do this in honor of Don, that I will, at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon, I parked at Kroger, the closest spot that I can find. And it was 104 steps from that parking spot to the front door. The number of steps from the angled parking at Citizens Bank to the intersection of Main Street and Indiana is 61 steps. So if you're going to Kroger, you're walking further from the parking lot to get into the building than you are to some of the public parking lots in Mooresville to Main Street in Indiana. The one last thing, I know I've bored you with my dialogue, or monologue, I guess. But one other thing that I would like to mention, and I don't want this to sound impolite, but the discussion tonight, and I think from my standpoint, at least I can speak for myself, I cannot speak for the other commissioners, but the issue is not whether or not this park is going to be built and this parking lot being relocated to 40 West Main Street. This project will happen. It's going to happen. It is happening. The Redevelopment Commission has signed a design contract to have this project designed. We did that last month. And we're spending a considerable amount of money to have the project designed. We have entered an agreement with the property owner to move forward with the project. So this project is going to happen. And I want you to know that we did take into consideration the issue that you're here talking about tonight. So, commissioners, would you like to add anything?
I don't know what there would be to add. Walked all those things.
So, having said that, I promised that we would open the meeting for your comments. And I do welcome you to the microphone, whomever would like to make a comment. And again, ask that you give your name, your address, and also not duplicate what someone else has said. So, whomever would like to go first.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. As I come with open ears to listen to what's going on, I hope that you will have open ears as well. Sydney Stallsworth, 8 East Washington Street. I just rented the building at 3 East Main and 1 East Main. I have a nail shop, Nails by Sydney. I've been in business 20 years. I moved from Indianapolis to Plainfield to Mooresville 8 years ago. I'm taking an expansion and expanding my business, needed a big location. I picked this location because it was close to a parking lot. My clients range in all ages, especially the elderly. They're not going to walk down the street to my facility. Getting nails done is a luxury, and having to park 61 steps or 100 steps, they're not going to do it. Now, being in Kroger parking lot, you're still in Kroger, right? So I picked this location based on the parking availability. So now that I've signed this contract 6 weeks ago, and I just found out about this 2.5 weeks ago via Facebook, I'm already kind of like, well, I'm gonna have to move. I haven't opened my doors yet, but I'm gonna have to move. So I wanted to stay in Mooresville. I love Mooresville. Love the historic part of Mooresville. We own the whole historic house at 8 East Main. I'm sorry. So I'm very disappointed. I hear you say it's been in the making, but even being a resident even just right across the street, that's gonna hinder who's going in next. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Duvall, and I'm with WD Associates. Everybody knows the Wades. And we have a building right behind, the building's right behind the bank, or in front of the bank, or whatever. Our address is 6764 Powers Court, Shelby Township, Michigan. I have a couple of simple thoughts I wanted to drop on you. Why do the downtown merchants want a mini park